Welcome to this week's Blonde Intelligence. I'm your host, Miss Roni, and I always seek to give you exquisite cranial repertoire. And it's almost summertime, and some women get mad, and it's too bad. But we're going to have a little talk about feminine hygiene, especially for the summer. Now, some women get mad, but I have talked to some people, and as grown women, I cannot believe some of it. I remember I was with one of my friends, and we was going to her grandmother's house. And her grandmother was like, I'm not going to say a typical black grandmother, but she liked to curse, and she tell you about what's up with the men, what you should accept, what you shouldn't. And she stayed at home and kept the kids, and she always told us, y'all don't have to go through the things that we had to go through as women because of, I guess, the types of jobs that they had to work and not being married sometimes and things like that. And she would always say, sometimes I had to do things that I didn't want to do, but I made sure that food was on the table. And I thank God that I never had to make those types of decisions to put food on the table. But I remember us going over her house, and she had been recently bound to a wheelchair. I'm going over there to visit, and she's like, I ain't seen you in a long time. Da, 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 da. And then she's like, I tell you what, we already knew it was something because she was the type of grandmother that's going to tell you about women from a real perspective. And she said, if you ever want to smell some stinking, I'm going to call it cooter, some stinking cooter, you need to smell some 70-something-year-old that have to stay in a wheelchair all day. She said, woo. I said, put a little vinegar in your water when you wash up and when you take a bath. She said, what's that supposed to do? I said, well, vinegar cut odor. And she was like, I'm going to try that. And she was in her 70s. And I came back over there, and she was like, ooh, girl, made a big difference. I don't know how I didn't know that. And she accepted the advice. And, I was a little bit younger then. But then I remember I had posted a post on Facebook, and I was like, it's summertime. You need to keep up with your feminine hygiene. And this was years ago. And a couple of people had the nerve to comment, which I really felt was like super disrespectful, considering if you felt like that and big as your body is, and that's not body shaming. The first person who said something with this was this girl. And I know she was about 350. And she said that regular soap and water was sufficient. And I like to know how, when even the regular person put on, we'll get into that, but the regular person does extra things besides just soap and water. So that right there was a red flag for me, which means that I'm not finna argue with you because you either in the category of you walking around here funky and thinking you clean, because it's a lot of them like that too. I listen to the men talk. I get into that too. But they say that the little cute ones be walking around. Okay, but anyway, she was about 350 pounds and felt like all she needed was soap and water. And I let her have that. Hey, do you. Then I had a cousin to comment that the body cleans itself. Now, to a certain extent, the body does cleanse itself. It tries to get rid of toxins from your body. It will fight off infections. It will go from menstruating to not menstruating and all of that. but it never said that the body rids itself of odor. And so she was another one that I thought that was out of her element, and she was my little cousin. And to even think that, and then I had to think about how people grew up and the things that I heard from the grandmother. And then I talked to one of my ex-sister-in-laws one time, and she went, she was one that if she had a hard time, she was disabled and had several children, but she went to live with a friend and her mom. And that mom did not know about using vinegar, didn't have any idea about a douche. And I know there's I would say it's debatable about using a douche, but I don't think there's anything wrong with douching with warm water after your menstruation. Not vinegar in it, not scented, just some regular warm water. But hey, so I just felt like, people being offended, women being offended, because no men was offended, but women being offended by other women talking about feminine hygiene and telling people that they don't need to do that. And I remember having a conversation with one of my friends. I have several friends that likes to walk around in the summertime and not wear any underwear. Now, women naturally have a vaginal discharge, and they was thinking that it was sexy to walk around with no panties on. And I told one of my friends, I said, that's not sexy, that's nasty. She's like, girl, no, it's not. I said, next time you get ready to go to the bathroom, I want you to rub your finger from the front to the back. And then you tell me that. She called me. She was like, Robinson. I said, what? You was right. I said, right about what, girl? What? She was like, rubbing my finger. I said, I don't want to hear that. I've been told you that. And you've been walking around thinking you sexy all this time. And men who come and do that, they nasty too. Now I understand some men like the natural musky smell of a woman, but you don't want it to smell like a bear. Then I was watching YouTube about some Brazilian waxers, and she was talking about how clients would come in and hadn't taken care of their feminine hygiene before they come in to get a wax. She said, you should not be coming in to get a Brazilian wax if you got cottage cheese coming out of one area. And she said, and these are her words, not mine, dookie balls in your behind and haven't cleansed your behind good. She didn't say it like that, but she used the word dookie balls. I could not, for a grown woman to walk around like that, because they make like flushable wipes, that you can put in your purse. And when you use the bathroom, you can clean, Then I saw a story, and this woman was telling her own story about how she just can't get it together and that she's a good worker, but she's been written up at work so many times because she don't have time to shower. And at the time of this video, she hadn't showered in about 3 weeks. Did you wash your face and brush your teeth? Did you comb your hair? Did you do any of that? Because I don't understand that one. I had a girl to tell me, do I got any lipstick on my teeth? And her breath was so foul. And I was like, did you brush your teeth? And she was like, no, I didn't have time. You didn't have time to brush your teeth, but you had time to put lipstick on. Now, if you're already late, this is what I used to tell people when I was in, then you might as well go ahead and do everything that you need to do. Why rush and be late when you haven't brushed your teeth? You hadn't showered or took a bath. You don't have any clean clothes. You're already late. I don't know. But then I listened to some stories from the men about some experiences that they have had with, I'm going to say, some unsavory, I'm going to call it, And several men said that an ammonia smell comes out when they take the underwear off. And that comes from several days of wearing the same underwear. I guess that was confirmation. Several days of wearing the same underwear. And then ladies and men talking about a BBL smell. And some of the women that have had BBLs was talking about it comes from the incision because you still be leaking. Well, some of these women have had BBLs for a long time. And one woman broke it down and said it's either a soft smell or a hard smell, but it smells like faint, dying flesh. Which could probably be true because I have seen more and more reports on BBLs being one of the most dangerous surgeries that there is, and that people are getting fat injected where it don't need to be injected deep into the muscle. It needs to be injected like under the top layer of skin, and that sometimes the meat will get hard. And when it gets hard, you can't get in between there really good to clean. Them flushable wipes will get in between there. And I was watching another lady and she was talking about the use of vinegar. And she was like, people, if you are healed, there are certain things that you can do for your hygiene for BBLs. And people trying to make excuses of, you sweat different and you have more meat and all of this. I just wonder about the women who get BBLs that are already skinny and don't have the extra meat to put back there. What are they actually putting back there? Whose fat is it? Why is your body rejecting your own fat cells? That don't make sense to me, because now I know that your body will fight against your own body and you'll have like allergic reactions where your body is trying to fight that. But if it's your own direct DNA and fat cells, and all they're doing is injecting your fat into your body, then why is your body rejecting it? Why would you have a smell like that if the skin is an organ? So I know they do like pig grafts and different things. Like, I'm just wondering what is being injected if you don't have the body fat for the injections. And are you signing like a waiver that you can use other people's fat? I don't know. Hey, but I got some tips that I want to talk about for feminine hygiene for this summer. And I really don't want to hear anybody saying anything about all that is not needed. It's needed. And if you don't feel like it's needed for you, then hey, you keep doing what you do. But if you do the finger test during the summer, just something regular. You just got out the shower. You decided to run to Walmart. You went to Walmart. Walmart is ice cold. You get back in your car, you run your air, you come back to the house, or you go back to work. Try the test. But anyway, tips. And some may be debatable. First thing, you need to clean from the inside to the out. And get you some sea moss. Get you some sea moss pills, some sea moss gel, some dry sea moss. I prefer dry sea moss because sea moss, once you make it into gel, can expire and sour. So I always make my own gel and get the dry sea moss because you can make small jars of it, and you can get like the little baby food jars and make the sea moss. Sea moss has almost all of the essential vitamins that we need in just that one serving. And it eliminates odor-causing bacteria. So you can start with cleaning yourself with sea moss from the inside to the out. And sea moss is going to do a whole other plethora of things for you because it's so good for you. I like to put them into smoothies because it masks the taste. You got to clean the sea moss really well, and you cannot clean it with warm water because that's what you're going to use to gel it with your blender. But you're going to use cool water to make sure that you got all the sea trash and everything out of it, because sea moss is actually seaweed that actually comes out of the ocean. And I don't know what process they use to dry it, but that's what I use, the dry sea moss when I get ready to make my sea moss. So then there's bathing. Please do not do like the lady who went 3 weeks without bathing. I'm sure some do more than that. If you walk on an aisle with somebody and you can smell them, or people who have locks in their hair, smell their hair when you walk on the aisle, you're not washing your hair or bathing your body, because it's a smell to that is distinct. When you run your bath water, I use white vinegar. Some people like to use apple cider vinegar. They say that it has all these antioxidants. That is debatable, because I heard the apple cider vinegar is not effective unless it has the mother in it. But I'm not putting gook in my bath water. So I use the white vinegar. You run your tub full of water. You put your cup and a half of vinegar in there, and you sit in there for a few minutes, or whatever. And then you soap up and take a bath as normal. Okay? Now, if you take a shower, you can do like a diluted spray bottle of vinegar and water and spray it on your towel to rinse off when you get ready to rinse your body off or whatever in that area. And that helps for your back part too. So you can take a bath and be clean, but if you don't wear deodorant. And some women wear powder. I can't wear powder. It irritates me. So, we came up with put deodorant in all your stinky parts before Native did. So you can get you a mild deodorant. I am a heavy-breasted woman, so I use it under my breast, under my arm, under my fupa. And they have feminine sprays that you can spray, they say, on your undergarments. But if you are a woman, you need to put on a panty liner. That's the next thing. Panty liners. And spray your panty liner with feminine spray. They said it's not advised to rub some deodorant on it, but I feel like if deodorant don't break your underarms out, that it's not going to break you out from a panty liner either. And of course, if you use lotion or not, that's not my concern. But my grandma always said that women wear perfume every day. You have your good perfume for when you go somewhere, and then you have your everyday perfume for when you're around the house or just have to go out and just run some errands. Now, like I said, some of this is debatable, but you should not be leaving your smell when you get up. Should not. And the man told me that a woman honeypot is always with her. And I was like, honeypot? He was like, you sitting on it. Don't let it be a Barracuda pot. Let it stay a honeypot. Take care of yourself. Not saying that you necessarily have to get a wax down there, but don't let a chia pet be growing out of there, because odors get trapped in the hair too. So remember the panty liners, remember the vinegar, remember the deodorant, remember to soak if it's bad, remember if you had a BBL and your incisions are healed. Your incisions are healed. Take that soak to get that dead smell out. Also, make sure they're only putting your fat in you. I don't know why I felt like I needed to say that. But anyway, that's all I have for this week. And there was some other things that I was trying to debate whether I wanted to talk about, in entertainment. But I felt like this was something that the women needed to know. No matter how clean you are, especially during the summer when it get hot, when it get humid. These are some things that you really need to do. And if somebody's saying that I don't know what I'm talking about, you tell them to do their finger test. But anyway, I'll see you next week. Bye.
Hey girl, let me tell you about this podcast.
Girl, everybody has a podcast these days.
But this one interviews new and interesting indie artists. It's called Indie Artist Music Hustle with Blonde Intelligence.
Really? Where can I find it?
It's on all podcasting platforms, streams live on social media, and on rpentradio.com.
What'd you say it was called again?
It's called Indie Artist Music Hustle with Blonde Intelligence.
Girl, I'm gonna have to check her out.
Give it a check, girl.